Welcome to the Parenting for Faith podcast. We are on season 14, episode 6, and today we are going to be hearing all about school. I'm Jess.
And my name is Anna, and we are your hosts today. Thank you so much for joining us. We know there are so many other podcasts you could be listening to, and you have chosen to be here with us. So we are very grateful. Here at Parenting for Faith, we are all about equipping parents and carers to help their kids and teenagers meet and know God. And we do that through loads of practical ways like this podcast, our free online courses, and loads of resources on our website. We're also here for churches because you guys are absolutely vital supporting community around parents. So if you are a children's leader, youth leader, church leader, you're super welcome as well.
Yes, and we've got some exciting news, haven't we, Anna?
We have. We need a drum roll. Drum roll, please.
Ooh.
That's not much of a drum roll. We have been working on something behind the scenes for a long time now. The planning for this has literally been in the years, to make something called BRF Online. So you might know that Parenting for Faith is one of the 4 ministries of BRF Ministries. And we wanted an online platform that was kind of like Netflix, or insert your video platform of choice, where you could get all the content that you want and need to do with Christian parenting and parenting for faith all in one place. That it would recommend things that are relevant to you, that you could be in community with other people and share ideas. And we have been working super hard to get it ready, and it is now available. So you can go to BRF Online, sign up for a limited time. It is going to be completely free. So do make the most of that.
Go.
Yeah, exactly. Run, don't walk. We'd love you to access that. So please enjoy everything that's on there. Everything's really bite-sized and easy to access. So very exciting.
What a great alternative to hours on Netflix that I spend.
I mean, that's what we're hoping, but no shade on Netflix. You can still enjoy Netflix too, but it does take a bit of the scary out of. We know the word course sounds like a bit homeworky and like a thing you have to plan and do, but we really want you to watch this stuff and enjoy it, just whilst you're crashed out in the evening or when you've got a friend over for a coffee or whatever it might be. So we hope this makes it more accessible. But let's go now to my conversation with Joe about school. I'm absolutely delighted today to be joined by Joe Lowther from Kick. Joe, thank you so much for coming to join us. Can we start off by just getting to know you a bit? Tell us a bit about you and a bit about Kick as well.
Absolutely. Well, lovely to meet you and have time together, Anna. Very excited to be here. My name is Joe Lowther. I am I've been married to Laura for 20 years this July. Excited by that. And I was previously a principal of an outstanding school, and then I felt called into mission, and so I came to Kick 11 years ago, and our mission here is to transform young people's lives with God's love through sport and support, and so we work today with 31,000 kids a week across a range of different services in schools, from physical education, street dance, solutions-focused mentoring, and schools-based chaplaincy. So we're seeking to provide, if you like, 40 different sports or dance disciplines, i.e. the physical, as well as the mental through the mentoring, and the spiritual through the chaplaincy. And so we're very pleased to deliver those things in schools. And then we work with local churches in the community to enable them to run Kick academies, where they can do some coaching with an inspirational thought from the Bible, and then an application of matches or dance routines, depending on what type of Kick academy it is. But I must also mention, particularly on this podcast, that I am a father to 3 boys, and very proud of that. And I've recently become an elder at our church. And so, learning on the go about how to run churches.
Just for something else to do in your free time, because it sounds like you're not very busy. Joe, that is amazing. Let me start by thanking you for all the work that Kick does. That is absolutely phenomenal. What an impact in our nation. I'm so glad you exist, and that you and all your teams, pour those hours in. That's absolutely amazing. one of the things that strikes me is you're a good person to ask about school. You're in schools. Most of us as parents and carers, we aren't. We drop them off at the school gates, we pick them up, or, we may be well past that stage as well. They come back when they come back. And so I just wanted to start off by asking you, what's it like? What are children and young people really dealing with right now that parents and carers might not know about, might not see?
Children and young people are honestly going through quite a range of different challenges. 840 million days of education were lost during those 2 lockdowns only 4 or 5 years ago. And that is a generational change point for this new group of young people. Gen Alpha are just progressing into adulthood, and Gen Z are just progressing into adulthood, but Gen Alpha are coming through having experienced that change point in the lockdowns. And 1 in 3 15-year-olds identify with a mental health condition now. 1 in 5 now self-harm, according to UNICEF. Early childhood trauma rates before the pandemic and after the pandemic were 1 in 10 before the pandemic, and they're now 1 in 6. So young people are more anxious, but they're also more unhappy. And so that is a concern for us. I sit on a all-party parliamentary forum for the impact of COVID on children's mental and physical well-being at Westminster. And we had the director of CAMS, Child and Adolescent Mental Health, come and share with us. And she said, mental health is like, or the happiness index, is like a smile. I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, we're actually happiest when we are children and also near the end of life. We're most unhappy in the middle of our lives, which was quite interesting and quite disappointing for somebody who recently turned 40. And so I was thinking, this is as bad as it's going to get, But again, the fact that our children are unhappy earlier is a concern. They should be happiest as children or after they've retired. And so again, that is a concern. And one other statistic that really grabbed me was that concerningly now, 60% of terrorism referrals are for under 20s. So a number of our children are being groomed by extremism. And that is a real concern for us. So a range of different factors.
I think as parents, we are sometimes guilty of saying, well, when I know what it's like. When I was at school, it was like this. But that picture you paint is of a very different world and a very different environment that they're growing up in with their peers and the people that they're interacting with, what the staff have to deal with, all that kind of thing. So give us some hope, Joe. Your book talks about God meeting young people in ordinary places. Yeah. What might that look like in the school day or in the school context? Where's God in all of this?
Well, we have a great story, I think, of what God's been doing. And God is not asleep at the wheel. He's wide awake on the throne. And we see that in Psalm 121. I lift my eyes up to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from you, maker of heaven, creator of the earth. And we believe that is true. And we believe that God is available to each of us and to young people. And something that I learned recently was a study was taken around faith. And children are born with an innate belief in a creator. It makes sense to them. And what sadly happens is we beat it out of them through school and tell them that's a silly thing to believe. Why on earth would they believe that during childhood? And so 98% of children and young people believed in this study that there was a God. Preschool and then post-school had obviously very different opinions. So let me get back to your question, because there's much to do. But we do work with a great God. And at KIC, which is, as I said, our mission is to transform young people's lives with God's love through sport and support. We go into schools and we provide coach, mentoring, and chaplaincy. And we lace our coaching sessions in sport and dance with Christian values. Also, we're working with the solutions-focused mentoring provision, which works the most challenging kids in the school. And so again, in those sessions, we'll be helping them around their personal and social challenges. We won't be imposing faith with those learners where they are vulnerable. That's really important to us, that we are there to deliver a service that is personal and social. But chaplaincy is just an amazing opportunity to provide that spiritual lens as well in a school context. And so, I was talking to one of my chaplains recently. He said, "Oh, I love my job." I said, "Why?" He said, "What job in the world do you get a chance to preach the gospel to 1,500 unchurched people?" He said, church leaders would kill for this.
Yeah.
And I just thought, what a fascinating take. And so again, it's so true. And our partnership with local churches, where we train them to run sports ministry or dance ministry, that has seen amazing growth. In the last 12 months, we've launched 15 new Kick Academies across the country of local churches. When I joined Kick, we had 7 staff, and today we have 97. We've grown from engaging in 17 schools a week to 107 across the last 8 years. And it has been fascinating to see God move and to see more children and young people engaged. And we have real plans. We aspire to double in size across the next 3 years, to go from working with 30,000 kids a week, 25,000 recently, to 50,000 young people a week, and we're already up to 31,000 in year. And so we are encouraged with what God is doing, and we are hopeful that he will continue to bring the increase and enable us to work with children and young people across the country. And so it has been really, really exciting to see all that God is doing. He cares about children and young people. He loves them. As we know, he says, let the children come to me. And that is very important as a message that we remember his heart for children and young people. He delights in them. And so, again, it's something that we are, hungry to encourage and keen to see happen. These are important things. I think it's Psalm 127 that says about children being a heritage from the Lord, and the offspring are a reward from him. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are children born in one's youth. And so, again, we can remember that children are a gift. They are a blessing, and it is good to have a quiver full of them, as the scripture says. And so we are delighted to be able to work with these precious children and young people, and hungry to do so.
It's so exciting to hear, Joe. It's so good. And we're going to pop some links to Kick and your work in the show notes, so people can find out if you're working in their local area, and if not, you might be in the next those next thousands that they're getting to. But I was just thinking, maybe in some of the schools you're not in, there'll be people listening who don't have a Kick chaplain and don't have these Kick programs. And we know, throughout, it's a long time that our kids and teenagers are in school, 12, 13, 14 years. And during that time, there's friendship stuff, there's failure, academic pressure, bullying, making great memories with friends, some things they'll do for the first time. It's very up and down, isn't it? There's lots of waves to surf. There's lots going on. And I just wondered if you had any advice for parents and carers listening, maybe even more with your dad hat on now, as well as your Kick hat. But how can we bring God into those moments and situations? How can we help them realize that it's not God for church on Sunday and maybe some bits at home, but that he's right there with them at school, and someone they can call upon and just chat to and get his wisdom and advice right in the middle of those situations? Having
just recently become sort of an elder at church and stepping into church leadership, I read the brilliant Parenting Faith book about church leadership. And one of the things it talks about providing windows into your world so that you can communicate with your kids about your life and be open with them. And I think actually in turn, we can then adequately say to the children, please give us a window into your world in school.
Yes.
And have that open dialogue. And so that is very important, to ask questions back and forth and share and be shared with. I also, I think as parents, another thing it talks about in the book is to share, take every opportunity to kind of use that as a gospel moment and to frame things well. And so again, if your child comes home and says, it's a window into my world, and this was discussed at school today and I didn't really understand it, I found it confusing, well, then you can reframe that as a parent, perhaps towards a biblical narrative. And what we just absolutely mustn't do is outsource all of our education to schools or church youth workers. The most important educator in our children's lives are their parents. And, anybody can be a CEO or a head teacher or whatever it is, but only you or me can be the best parent to our own children. And that is a calling. And for us as parents to see that, I think it's in the Proverbs where it says, train your child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they will not turn from it. And that is an important calling, one of the most important callings. And so being a part of a church family and seeing that as a wider body of opportunity to have surrogate, if you like, uncles and aunts, peers for our kids is really, really great. But absolutely not outsourcing parenting to others. I read an amazing book called The Intentional Father by John Tyson. It totally transformed my approach to parenting, where he talks about at 18 or at 13, which in the Bible, Jewish people saw 13 as when you became an adult, not 18 or 21 like we do here. But he said at 13, start a journey with your kids of discipleship through 18, where they may at that point be ready to leave home. And so John Tyson just says in the book, what do you aspire your child would leave the airport if they were flying to another country being competent and confident to do? And so just things like, cooking, cleaning, washing, being able to hold court at a dinner table or tell a joke, or for me, having read through the Bible once at least themselves, by the time they're 18 is really important. And so we started that journey, and my 15-year-old has read through the Bible, and my 12-year-old is halfway, just about to get to halfway through in the Psalms. And so again, I share those things because I hadn't read through the Bible until I was 28. And so I aspire for my children to have better than I had, and to have read the Bible for themselves before they leave my care, if you like, and get ready for that. So those are just some things, and I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, there's so much wisdom there. I'm trying to decide what to pick up on because there's a lot. I think you're right that those teen years are so significant, and that's why we did the Parenting Teens for a Life of Faith book and course, because a lot of parents feel like they don't have influence over their children still at that point. And we want to say, absolutely you do. You're still the most important, most significant person in their world, and the one to kind of lead them spiritually. So that's, something to hold on to. And I think I was also thinking too of either side of that. So, starting before they're even born, if that's where you are today, or if you've got toddlers or preschoolers or primary school or adult children, to really lean into that. You're the parent and carer, however old they are. And I thought it was so valuable what you were saying there about creating windows, and that actually it's not about saying, here, do it the way I'm doing it, but it's opening up that vulnerability, that safety really, to share stories and share examples. And I had a bit of a light bulb moment this weekend, or I think I did. Maybe this has been obvious to everyone else for a long time, but we've got two two of our key tools at Parenting for Faith. One is framing, which you mentioned, all about kind of pointing things out to your kids and your teenagers that you want them to notice and showing them where God is. And that's often proactive. You're noticing something and pointing it out to them, or you're making space for questions, or you're explaining the Bible. But the fifth one is called Surfing the Waves, and it's about noticing what they're interested in and journeying with them and being alongside them as their interests flow in new directions. And it just occurred to me in a way it never had before that those are kind of two sides of the same coin and that it's a reciprocal relationship, that you can't have one of those without the other. If you as the parent are always the one instructing and pointing stuff out, and that's super helpful.
Gosh.
But you need the other side as well, which is, what are they interested in? What's going on in their world? What does that look like? And it was actually Kay Morgan-Gurr from the Additional Needs Alliance who was saying, she was talking about children with neurodiversity and additional needs, and saying when they have a special interest, sometimes you can link that to faith and Jesus, and that's the route to go, and you, do the Lego Bible or whatever it is. But often it's just about being with them and understanding their world and what's important to them, and having the humility to say, I care about you as a person, and what you're interested in, I'm also interested in, or I want to hear about because it's important to you. And I was just, as you were sharing there, I really felt like, we need to hold both those things, don't we? I think some of us are naturally better at one than the other, but just kind of a moment to take stock and say, how can I listen to my child or teenager more? What can I learn from them? How can I show an interest in what they're interested in, as well as being really proactive about, like you say, what do I want them to leave home with? What's important to me that I want to pass on? Not for another day, because we're always busy. There's always too much going on. Today, what can I do, and how can I make a difference there?
One of the things you talked about was how can we know our children well, and I think it's so important. Each child that I have, I've been astonished each time how different they are. I thought they'd always be the same. They're completely different. My 15-year-old, my 12-year-old couldn't be more different. And my sort of third child is like a hybrid of the two of them. They're all so different. And so I have to, therefore, relate to them in different ways, because they are uniquely created, fearfully and wonderfully made individuals. And so I will go swimming with one of them because they really like that quality time. With another, I'll go take them for a coffee because that's a really special moment for them. And for others, we'll watch Godzilla or The Hobbit, just the two of us, because again, it's good to be all together, but it's equally important to build relationship with them individually, so that there's those moments to say, what's going on in your life? How are you? And this is what is going on in my life. I want to know about you. Let's really think through how we truly know our children and young people. And obviously we can't know them as well as God, but we can get to know them, work them out, understand their personality types, understand their pushes and pulls, understand whether they're a morning or an evening person, all these kind of things. What are their interests? How can I build my understanding of Godzilla and that whole monster verse, because it's important to my 9-year-old. And if I've had a bad day, how do I say that to them and say, do you know what? I had a hard day today. Would you mind praying for me? When we pray together before bed. Oh, and my kids love to do that. I don't do that often, but when I do, they are keen to do that because it's a two-way relationship. It's not just one way. So, as I say, just a few thoughts there.
Yeah, it's that vulnerability and openness, isn't it? And I think actually, Joe, that ties it all together quite neatly, because it's full circle. It's kind of encouraging us as parents and carers to notice our own children, to get to know them better, to love them in the way that they need. But it's also that wider church community, the supportive community around families. Let's look out not just for our own kids, but for the kids and teenagers in our church communities and in our communities. And that's part of what Kick is doing, is being those role models and father figures and for kids in schools. And we're so grateful that you're doing that. But I think I just want to end on an encouragement to invest in your own children, be vulnerable, share bits of your life with them, be open to hearing about theirs and make space and time for that. But wider than that, let's look at the children and teenagers in our churches and in our wider communities, and ask God, what's our part to play there? How can we be significant and supportive adults in their life as well? Joe, thank you so much for your time. It's been really great chatting.
Thank you so much. Brilliant to be here. And yeah, a real treat. At Kick, we want to transform young people's lives, and we know that we have a great God who loves them and is keen to be there for them. And so, yeah, thank you very much for having me, Anna, and cheering on all the great work you guys are doing.
Brilliant. Thanks, Joe.
We have got a question to spark an interesting conversation this week. And this question is, what do you think Jesus's favorite subject at school would have been?
Ooh, that it almost sounded Christmas cracker joke. Like I was waiting for the punchline. There is no punchline. It's just a conversation to have. So have a great conversation. Do also book onto that Parenting as a Church Leader course. Joe was saying how much the book had helped him. And if you're a book reader, great, buy the book. But if, like me, you do better to whack something in your diary and set some time apart to think about it, we'd really recommend coming on that. It's at the end of April, and we'll pop a link in the show notes. Have a great week. We will connect with you again next week. Bye.
Bye.